Okay, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to SmudTalk number 15. I know we just did a bunch of live streams already, but now we've got the time and the capabilities of talking about the latest Resident Evil game, which I believe is releasing this year. I know they had just announced it a few months ago, but man, it's so quick. They're coming out with a new one. And it's called Resident Evil Village, I believe. And there's lots of wonderful, not just the trailer, but I think is it a not a documentary. What's the term I'm looking for? It's like a developer diary sort of vibe as we go through watching it, describing all the nuances of gameplay. So, if you love Resident Evil, there's lots of great things to like here. Big creepy mansion in some secluded wintry village. Is it winter? No, it's not winter. What is it?
It's actually to kind of not to cut you off here, Smud. It's actually set somewhere in or around Romania because someone noticed that the currency that you use in the game is the same kind of currency that they use in Romania, which is called lei, Lei, I believe.
Okay.
So
All right. So we've got this potential Romanian village with this gigantic, I guess you can call it an evil mansion. I don't know. This is a very typical setting for most horror-like stories. It's almost vibing off the Castlevania feeling just because there's Victorian art and Gothic art as well. So lots of really rich upholstery and all kinds of other interior design that makes you go, okay, there's someone with very affluent part of the world lives here. And we don't know exactly the time period. I assume it's the future because they refer to the same guy who was in the previous games. So,
okay, it's current day. Well, I mean
current.
like 20-ish, I think, but it's set a few years after Resident Evil 7, which was another current day one. Um, But yeah, it's set in the current day. But this character, Lady Dimitrescu, if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm so sorry. They reveal in the demo for this game that she's been around since at least 1958.
Oh, okay. So this is clearly some sort of non-scientific related Resident Evil story because most of the Resident Evil stories involve the Umbrella Corporation and their crazy experiments. So this is clearly something not like that. I'm assuming we don't know. It's not clear.
They actually address that because there's a lot of different elements in this game. Like people were freaking out, like, "Oh my God, there's werewolves in this game. Oh my God, there's vampires in this game." How does this all tie into what the core of Resident Evil has been, which is zombies and biological weapons? The developer has come out and said, "We're going to make this fit in our universe. We're going to make this work." So some kind of virus that's causing these people to mutate, into like this. And we've only scratched the surface on the people we've met. We've only met the vampire lady and this giant werewolf guy. Who knows else we're gonna meet in this game? We don't know.
Okay, so let's go over the first image you got for me, which is the map, I believe. Let me just pull it up.
So in case I told you this in your DM, Smud, the map is actually it's going to be included in the collector's edition of Resident Evil, the physical collector's edition. And people were blowing up the screenshot of the map. That's where I got this image from, actually. And people are trying to find clues and talk about like the different locations you see on the map, and like potential like boss fights, things like that, like where we're gonna go, things of that nature.
okay, so this is not your typical Resident Evil map, to my knowledge. It looks something that you might see in a Castlevania game. A little different laid out, of course, but you've got Heisenberg's place. You've got all these other weird locations. So I'm assuming these are levels, not just locations. So you actually have to go to these places physically and walk through them. And there's probably multiple levels. The same way any other game has multiple levels in a 3D real-time game, of course. So This is not a small game. It looks like it's very large and lots to explore. So
No, and the developers have confirmed that this game is going to be longer than Resident Evil 7, and I actually did my homework on it. Resident Evil 7, on average, takes you like 9.5 hours to complete. That's on average, you know. So we're looking at something maybe 11, 12 hours, maybe at best.
is that larger? I mean, it seems like a short amount of time, but depending on the quality of the content, like you could have one great, amazing level with all these wonderful enemies and bestiaries and one great boss fight. That would be normal for level 1, let's say. Then you have level 2, level 3, level 4. But after that, there's not too many things you want to put in your game just because there's too much content to constitute a game of that quality. As you see the trailer, it was extremely high quality. That was 4K. It had like all these beautiful scenarios and interiors. Like, okay, how many more levels can they do? Because there's a lot of like old school, like dirty. Is it called Art Nouveau? I can't remember the exact art style, the Renaissance, where you have a lot of flowery upholstery and chairs and tables and what have you, but it's all dirty. And they have like the underground, the dungeons. They have all these really unkempt places. So we've seen a variety of levels already. We saw outside the village going up to the mansion. So lots of really detailed, gritty places, which goes along with the concept of a gritty, scary, unkempt place, like a giant evil mansion. So interesting stuff. It definitely communicates to me because I'm a big fan of Castlevania. So whenever I see Devil May Cry, Castlevania, that sort of style, that gothic style, I'm like, okay, they're trying to play around with magic. They're trying to play around with lore from 100 years ago. What would a horror story involve? Usually some Frankenstein creature or eldritch abomination. So I think that's just for me. That's my style of creepy crawly sort of horror, but not quite the same for Resident Evil. Resident Evil is a little bit more modern with its secret societies and drugs and whatever is involved in those plots. Okay, so is that all we have to talk about the map?
Yeah. Yeah, just looking at it, like from what you were saying, Smud, like about like where we would go, like in this, you got like the 4 different houses. You got Castle Dimitrescu, House Benevito, Heisenberg, and Moreau. So those are probably like going to be like the 4 main levels or locations you're going to visit. And you got the village in the middle. The one thing that's got a lot of people stumped is the place in the upper right-hand corner, which is called the Stronghold. That's the one thing that's got everybody stumped. They don't know like if we're gonna go there, if it's gonna be DLC or what. But yeah, from the looks of it, it's just gonna be like 4 main locations that we're gonna go to in the game.
All right. Okay. Cool. Let's bring in. Where's our other image? Let me pull that up. There we go. Okay, this is the main character, the main villain, I guess. Actually, no, it's not the main villain. I believe there was a phone call she was on that she's saying she's talking to some other lady who's like
Mother Miranda.
Mother Miranda. There we go. So she's like her second in command or something. I don't know. So
I'm treating it like it's a cult. Like it's not like her mother, like her birth mother or anything like that. She's probably referring to her as like a spiritual leader or, a religious leader in a sense, like, like a Mother Miranda or Father this, in that way. That's how I'm looking at it.
all right, let me just try to pull up this map now because sorry, not the map. This weird design of a what is that anyway? It's like a door? What is that?
I'm looking at the live stream right now as you're doing this.
Yeah, I don't know what this is a picture of. It looks like an engraving on a door, but it could be many things.
Yeah, it's like the 4 emblems of the different houses.
Oh.
Yeah, you got Dimitrescu. The horse with the horseshoe is Heisenberg. Moreau is the mermaid. Dimitrescu is the one in the upper left with the two swords going through a flower, and the one in the upper right is Benevito, which is the sun and the moon.
Is there any significance to this aside from being like these brand new ideas, or there's any references to Resident Evil at all?
Well, the one main reference that everybody was freaking out about when they first saw this image was you have the umbrella logo in the middle there. It's
Right.
you got the white and the brown logo, and it looks like the umbrella logo, and everybody's freaking out. Everybody's trying to figure out what connection there is between this group and Umbrella.
I was thinking more along the lines of a German cross, and therefore it's just a generic symbol that would just adorn something. But I like how it at least spell it out. It's kind of hard to see with this image because the screen's so small. Let me just blow it up a bit. You can sort of make out the names there on screen there. It's kind of hard to see. But that would be House Dimitrescu, whatever you pronounce that. So this is it feels more like a Castlevania world, simply because it's all this Gothic architecture and stuff in stone and all these eldritch terrors running around. And what were those three witches all about? I didn't quite grasp that. Was that the idea of Dracula's daughters, or that like some other
Dracula's brides in a sense, and Lady Dimitrescu. I'm just gonna call her Lady D.
Okay.
Well, you try saying it too, but everybody's drawing like huge comparisons to Dracula and his three brides, who according to like the story, they weren't like they're not related in any way. So a lot of people are thinking like these three women that are her daughters, quote unquote, are actually victims turned into vampires, quote unquote. So yeah, and they're wondering like obviously they're not her actual daughters because they're not as tall as her. And yes, she is actually 9'6" with the hat and the heels on.
Jeez.
So she is the biggest. She is the biggest Resident Evil enemy. She's even taller than the Tyrant and Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, the remake. So she's bigger than those guys, and she's very interesting.
Okay, so we got some other characters here that you showed me. I don't remember their names, but let me just pull them up. Okay, here's this guy with some John Lennon glasses, and what does he got here? What is that? A hat? Is that the? Can't really tell, but he's not wearing a tie. He's just sort of wearing some sort of. It's like a raincoat.
Yeah, people think he's Heisenberg.
Oh.
They haven't actually confirmed it yet, so not really sure. But a lot of people are saying like, yeah, he could be definitely Heisenberg. And Lady D refers to him like as her little brother, and Ethan like escaped his traps, so he's maybe we're looking at some type of like Jigsaw type level where we're having to like escape traps and move in a stealth level in a sense, but again, who knows. And there's a clip of him in the latest trailer, the third trailer, where Ethan confronts him and there's like metal levitating around him, wondering like how they gonna explain that, like how does a virus that you inject into your body is gonna make you cause like telekinesis in a sense. And a lot of people think in one of the other images I sent you, Smud, just now, they think that this guy and the giant werewolf man are the same person.
The giant werewolf man?
Yeah, there's a image I sent you in your DMs. It's like this giant. Yeah, you'll see it. They think that guy and this guy are the same person. I don't really know. I mean, they could be two different people. They could be the same person. Who knows? We don't have enough information right now.
Okay, there he is. That looks. Are you thinking maybe like a Jekyll Hyde sort of thing, or what is the idea?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm wondering how it plays out.
that looks like a generic. Well, it could be a generic boss or mid boss character, like a more difficult enemy to fight. But that hammer is gigantic. Like that's just like he's got to be at least 6-7 feet. And I do recall in
Yeah,
the gameplay demo they showed a giant slamming the ground while all these zombies were coming after
that
you.
was him. That was him. Um, yeah, and it's not. Well, they don't. Well, I was gonna say they don't have zombies, but they have like these ghoul-like characters that you see in the gameplay trailer. That are, I'm guessing, in the dungeon or the basement of the castle, and they can use weapons too. So, wondering how that's gonna tie in.
And there's one more unit or character. Let me just pull them up. What the heck is this? There we go. Okay, some sort of what is that? A witch lady?
Yeah, that's another character we're not really too sure about. We hear her speaking like in the trailers. She's like delivering warnings to the main character. Um, I've heard some people theorize that she could actually be Mother Miranda. It's a twist that they've done in Resident Evil 7 where they had an old woman in a wheelchair, and you come to find out at the end of the game that she was actually the main villain the whole time, and she transforms into like this huge monster at the end of the game. Um, I don't know if that's the case with this character or not, but I'm not going to rule it out at this point. Like, it would feel kind of cheap if Capcom did that again, like in the same, universe or in the same setting. Like, oh, we had an old woman as the main villain in the last game. Now we have an old woman as the main villain in this game too. So who knows?
So what's the connection between Resident Evil 7 with the character? What's his name? Ethan. And
Yes.
so what happens in that game that would cause this village to know about? Like, what's the? I guess you don't know, but it seems as if like it's a well-known thing. Like they're trying to have continuity of the events of the last game to influence this one. Like, what did you do in Resident Evil 7 that was such a big deal?
Well, I'm trying to piece that together. I know they've said that Ethan and Mia, his wife, that was in the previous game, they move away after the events of Resident Evil 7, and this takes place, I don't know how many years later. They have a baby together, a daughter, and you see in the trailers, I think the most recent one, the daughter is taken by Chris Redfield, the main character from Resident Evil 1. And there's a lot of speculation about Chris Redfield right now. Um, he also kills Ethan's wife, Mia. He shoots her, you know, as she's lying on the ground. He shoots her dead. Um, Although I have my suspicions about that. There's one theory about that right now that I might go into later. But yeah, I've been wondering that myself. Like, what is the connection? Like, how did this village, how did these people, like, Mother Miranda and all these people find out about Ethan and his daughter? Um, that's what I'm trying to piece together right now. I have no clue. Some people have said they've actually like moved to like an area like that's near this village. It's like, why? Why would you move to this area?
Okay. So, well, we got a video to watch with, what is this, Liana K? Okay. Let's see if we can pull that up.
Yeah, she made this a couple weeks ago. I am so sorry about that. She actually made two videos about this subject. This one's the shorter one.
Oh, 20 minutes. Okay. Is this worth watching, or is there any laughs to be had? I'm always curious about Liana.
I'm trying to remember. I should have watched this like the day before. I know she makes a lot of comments about uh, Lady Dimitrescu's dress. Like, oh, it's impractical. It'll never work in reality. And she's super focused about the dress. She doesn't care about the vampire aspect and all that. But yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I know she got a couple of things wrong about like the demo. She says, "Oh, it's a demo," then it's not a demo, and it is a demo again. It's like, make up your mind, Liana.
All right, let's get going.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. Pardon the light flare in the background. I happen to be recording this at precisely the wrong time of day for my office, but we're not going to be looking at me much today because we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Village's breakout phenom, Lady Dimitrescu? Her. Tall lady, vampire lady, choke me mommy lady. This character has taken the gaming internet by storm, and I am fascinated by the whole phenomenon because we'll change up an image here. We'll go back and forth so you have something to look at. But I spent, it must have been over a half hour just staring at this dress because there is a lot going on in this dress, and you probably don't care about my opinions about her dress, but normally, I mean, we could infer a lot about her character from this dress, but I think it's just Resident Evil craziness because, I mean, first of all, there's a seam here and a seam here and a seam here, which is going to make, you know, the chest seem to sit lower, and then you've got gathering horizontally and then a big chunk of gathering vertically down the front. It's a lot, and then you've got these sleeves that appear to gather underneath the arm. There is a lot going on in this dress, but let's face it, no one's looking at the damn dress. If you like this commentary so far,
I don't know. I like the dress. Now, women of that stature need a wire bra, like no question. So that would kind of be important for that level of support. So we can say, well, you know, she's this crazy magical vampire lady. She can do whatever the hell she wants with her boobs. Like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me either.
Help support this channel. Become a patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Nobody is looking at the dress. They're looking at the cleavage. And they're looking at the big freaking spider hand that comes out at the end of the maiden demo. Now, it's not really a demo. I shouldn't call it a demo. That's not fair.
Except it is.
That's a misrepresentation. And I had that happen. I went into the maiden demo expecting a demo, and I didn't get a demo. I got, what do they call it? A visual showcase? Visual showcase is accurate. Visual showcase is accurate. It's very pretty. It shows off the pretty.
That's literally what they say
That's
at the
what
end
it
of the
is.
demo. Thanks for playing our visual showcase.
Expecting an actual game demo, I noticed a bunch of things like the audio mix is a teeny bit off. There's some audio effects I expect will be refined. When tools are used, like when bolt cutters are used and things like that, you don't see a hand. And I wonder if that's deliberate. They're trying to keep the identity of the.
So what she's saying about the demo with the hands, you can't see the person's hands. They did the same thing with Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake, where you couldn't see the person's hands. You just see an animation of the bolt cutters, like cutting a bolt or a key with no hand attached to it going into a lock. It's, yeah, they, you know, it's not like, you know, we have no idea who it is, you know. I mean, yeah, for the maiden demo, obviously they tried to keep it a secret, but people have theories and they hypothesize it's this one person that you see in a trailer because of a necklace and the clothes they're wearing. But Yeah, the whole hand thing with the bolt cutters. Yeah, they did that in the previous games. So that's not trying to hide the person's identity. That's just their style now.
I see nothing wrong with that. If it's consistent, they've been doing it all this time. Cool. Why not?
Made or that whole sequence might actually not be a game, similar to how the VR demo that became eventually Resident Evil 7 was a VR demo called Kitchen, which I tried at, I think it was at E3, one of those gaming shows. But oh no, I think it was at Fan Expo. But it was a terrifying demo, and you know, that game never became a thing, but that technology went on to be Resident Evil 7.
Actually, they used parts
of course,
in the game. They actually used parts of that, the VR demo, in the final product of Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, they usually do that when they make demos. It's like, oh, it's proof of concept. Oh, great, we'll do that for the real thing. It's like, yeah, that's why we made it.
Yeah, and the developers of this game have said, yeah, if when you play the final version of Resident Evil 8, they said eagle-eyed fans will be able to establish connections from the maiden demo and the main game. So there are going to be some elements from the maiden demo in Resident Evil 8. They have confirmed that.
So it's not just a vertical slice. They actually took parts that are in the game. Okay, we're going to show off in the demo, and just to say that it is a taste of what's coming, as opposed to just making stuff up.
Right, and the maiden demo itself, they said this is strictly for the PS5, just so we can showcase how this game's going to look on the PS5.
Ah,
you
cool.
know, we wanted to show like how good it's going to run, how it's going to look. It's incredibly detailed. But yeah, and they said they're going to come out with a different demo for everybody else, like PC, PlayStation 4, all those other people, sometime later, you know, in the next couple of months before the release of the game, obviously.
Right.
Resident Evil, sort of a continuation of Resident Evil 7. Let's go back to looking at the terrifying, and this is a character that is an example of someone who, I mean, yes, she's attractive. She's attractive in sort of that Bellamy Young way. You know, the mom on Prodigal Son.
She is a giant goth chick. She is the fantasy.
From the 1950s, at least.
I mean, she's gorgeous. She's tall. She's fashionable. I mean, she's kind of creepy in that scary monster sort of way. But I mean, that's a great mix. An attractive, scary villain. That's a great combination.
And from Scandal, you know, they're clearly going for older. You can see that her hair on her the side of her head is actually gray. That's not black like the bottom, which is a detail I notice a lot of cosplayers are missing. But it says something about.
Or it's just glare. It's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah, it looks like it's like light hitting the side of her face there, and I'll give Liana K credit for one thing. There have been a couple of cosplayers that have, you know, gotten a couple of things wrong. Like I saw a news article like a couple weeks ago, like there was the cosplayer who dressed up like her, but her hair was blonde, and the article's like, look how she nailed it perfectly, and I'm like, no, she got the one thing wrong. Yeah, sorry, the hair. Sorry.
Yeah.
Her, you know, her teeth are deliberately stained, probably from the augmented red wine she's been drinking. And, you know, she's letting the grays show. Maybe she just has COVID hair. Maybe she just, no, that's a joke. But, you know, she clearly takes pride in her appearance, but in her own, you know, 8-foot tall Elizabeth Bathory meets, how do you pronounce this Japanese monster? Hashi Shakusama? Is that how you pronounce it? It means 8 foot tall, apparently. But there is a Japanese 8 foot tall monster that like preys on children, and it's like a combination of this monster and Elizabeth Bathory. And this is what we keep coming back to Resident Evil 4. I enjoyed the fact that they pivoted back.
I don't think we keep coming back to Resident Evil because of sexy villains.
No, I mean, I don't really remember a whole lot of sexy villains.
Most of the villains are creepy or they're normal until they become like a giant monster. So that's
Yeah, and if there are any sexy women in Resident Evil, they're like a side character or one of the protagonists, like Jill Valentine or Claire Redfield, who dress provocatively. Well, at least back in the '90s versions of the game.
right.
Today they're a little bit more conservatively dressed. Jeans and things like that.
They're kind of tomboyish in a way, but yeah, they do have some curves
Yes,
here and there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Less to action, more towards sort of ambiance and building of tension. I hate freaking jump scares. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I think that this game is probably going to rise and fall on Lady Dimitrescu's performance, if you will.
Sadly, I agree.
Because based on the demo, the visual showcase, other than the mansion being super duper pretty, there aren't a ton of innovations in the sort of survival horror formula. Even the vampire witch ladies, her little coven here, they're generic vampire witch ladies. I mean, I think they're all even voiced by the same woman who sadly passed away at 39 from colon cancer. But it's really going to rise and fall on the pizzazz of, we don't even know that she's the main villain. She's on the phone to something, mother or something like that. I wrote it down here. I took like 4 pages of notes on Mother Miranda. So she's on the phone with somebody named Mother Miranda, and she sounds like she's deferring to an extent, kind of, sort of. The interesting part is with Ethan Winters, we're going in assuming that we're dealing with a character who's already infected with that progenitor mold bioweapon thing from Resident Evil 7. It's kind of hard to tell how this ties into that. I think it doesn't matter.
I kind of think it does. You want to know the relationship between a story that came before and where the hell do we get gothic Victorian vampires from? They have to draw that connection somehow. They can't just have it, hey, now we have magic. Now we have the undead. Now we've got eternal girls that have been around since the 40s or whatever.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see how they explain it in this game. Like I stated before, they're going to try to explain it, how it fits into the real world. Like, it's a virus, okay? How does that work? I want to hear the explanation. I'll laugh my ass off if I find out that Lady Dimitrescu is actually on a dialysis machine, and this is all just in his head,
Oh, God.
They injected him with some, like, hallucinogen, and she's actually on a dialysis machine, and that's why the blood and everything.
The comparisons to Resident Evil 4 are all over the place. They are obvious in numerous ways. Resident Evil 4...
Isn't it from first-person perspective, not third-person?
Yes, but she is right that there are... A lot of people are making comparisons between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 8. You go to a village, you're looking for someone's daughter. Well, in this case, it's Ethan's daughter, but, tomato, tomato. You're running afoul of the local villagers. You meet a character like Lady Dimitrescu in 8. In Resident Evil 4, it was the village leader. I forget the guy's name. It's like something Mendez, and he's like, he's like 2 feet taller than Leon, and he's the guy. They call him the Big Cheese. So there are a lot of comparisons people are making between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 8 right now.
Because it became over the top and hilarious just as the horror tension elements were wearing thin. And like, why is there like an evil little person driving a giant statue machine coming to get me, right? That was the high point of Resident Evil 4 for me. And the whole game was campy, but after that it was just sort of military people, tack on level, don't care. The little person controlling the giant statue that was trying to smash you, that should have been where Resident Evil 4 ended. Everything after that was just a letdown. And hopefully they'll have discovered that because again, the reaction to this villain, to Lady Dimitrescu, it says something, right? It not only says something about Resident Evil trying to keep things fresh while not changing very much at all, right? It's still the basic survival mechanics of find things and craft and evade, and you see some gunplay in the story trailer, but the fundamentals of horror games, they're not going outside that wheel to the point that every time there was a "hey, you got something" sound and it was duh, it annoyed me. And I know it's far from the first time, but that's quite a nitpick. The visual leap forward.
Is that the fanfare you get when you get an item?
Yeah, there's like a done noise when you get an item, but it's not like a, it's like you're hitting like keys on a piano, like done.
Right.
And then it's very brief,
Is that what she doesn't like?
Sounds like it. And I think that only happens like when you first find an item. Like I don't think it makes the same noise over and over again. At least I don't remember. I'd have to go back and replay Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of like another game like Deadly Premonition, where it's like do 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 do. It's like, whoa, you found an item. It's like, okay, but that's a weird, quirky game to begin with. Whereas Resident Evil is just, it's survival horror as simple as it gets. So it's not trying to do anything crazy as far as I remember the games.
On the PlayStation version of this made it so it's like you have to rethink stuff when you make a leap like that. And so, I don't know, maybe they'll change that sound. It could be a placeholder sound. Because I just found it's like, why are you making a bad sound when I did a good thing? But, yeah, they're really hyping up the mystery and the pizzazz surrounding this character. And I couldn't be happier. Because she's an older lady with some sex appeal. Who does not have to be an embodiment positive role model for all women. And fans are going utterly bonkers for her. And the reactions, I have some awareness of this sort of subculture because as part of the late night show, I was
the subculture of fans who like trailers? What?
I don't know, but yeah, thank God they haven't tried to like make this character like a feminist icon or something like that. Thank God for that. Although then again, who knows at this point? They might try. They might try.
I did like the cosplay of, well, there's a bunch of them really, but So
A lot, yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Some people are actually cosplaying as the daughters too.
Oh yeah,
And
really?
they're actually really good.
The funny thing is, though, no one can be this tall, for a girl at least, as far as I recall. And a lot of the cosplayers are really tiny.
Unless this is the final form of Lady Gaga.
Yeah, she's like 5 foot nothing. I think she's just really tiny.
Yeah, I've actually seen a picture of her without her heels on, and she's like really tiny.
Yeah.
She's like 5 foot nothing.
I actually did a giantess fetish video, and
What?
apparently it was pretty popular. Said
What?
the company I went and did it with as a part of the segment.
Okay.
They kept asking me to come back and do another one. I was like, I don't know what I do. I just did that for the show. This isn't something I thought of making a career out of. Like, wow. Yeah, there is a entire subset, a fairly large one, of guys who dig super tall women capable of manhandling them.
No, we just like tall women in general.
Yeah, plus I think we've reached meme status with this already.
Yeah.
Like people are thinking it's more of like a joke now, more than anything, really, I think.
Yeah.
At this point.
We always make the joke of the tall, sexy, big titty goth chick. We always make a joke about that because it's this crazy ideal that people have in their back of their minds. They're juvenile minds, not reality. So to see a gorgeous female version of that in a horror game is like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, sure. It works. It's attractive. It's scary. And it all just fits.
You're kind of breaking up for me, Smud.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say is it fits on multiple levels for the game and for the fans. It's like, I don't know how the vampires fit, but, it could. Not too far a stretch.
Yeah.
And I think that, not to get too deep and too thinky about this whole thing, but I think it's just another piece of evidence that undermines the conventional narrative of, presumed male audience power fantasy. Granted, it's survival horror, yes, but the reactions to this character have not been as part of, a traditional survival horror experience. Most people just watch the videos. They just like the character, right? And what I found interesting is because so much of what leads up to the character's reveal is so schmaltzy, so corny, I haven't had man blood in a while, right?
That was actually the daughter that said, one of the daughters that said that.
The fact that this character just manages to captivate really says a lot. And I think, part of the appeal is that it's a ridiculous character, but ridiculous in a fun way, shows that they're not taking themselves too seriously. And I think that's super important in a survival horror game, to not take things too seriously, because like I said before, there's always a part where the tension breaks and you just have to let the player have fun, because you can't be in that heightened state of anxiety for too long. Eventually people get a sort of a resistance to the whole thing and either get irritated or bored. At least I do. So having big, bold characters in this format, in this formula, is super crucial. And I also just think that, games have been so starved for interesting female character designs that Lady Dimitrescu just sort of woke everybody up. Like, whoa!
I don't think there's anything inherently interesting about her design. She's just a tall, attractive vampire chick with a gigantic hat. And it's so simple. Like, there's nothing special about her that I can see that's flamboyant, that's aside from the hat and the figure, like the boobs, like it's not, there's really nothing there. It's really it's really about having the idea that this is a villain that you're coming up against, and there's some history behind it. Oh my gosh, he's part of a mansion. It's part of a village. Like, it's called Resident Evil Village. Oh, okay. And it's Gothic. I say Victorian. I don't know the exact era. It's probably, later than that. But it's something that's different for Resident Evil, because Resident Evil has always been modern day and science and weird, crazy not vampire dogs, but zombie dogs, or whatever you call those creatures. Always.
So it was always like somewhat believable. Like you could actually believe something like this could happen. Like, genetically engineered monsters, or a virus that's
message coming in,
thousands of people.
Patching it through.
Those things sound believable in a sense. This does feel like an exaggeration. A 9 foot tall, vampire woman. Like, how does that work?
Right.
Like, how's this? I doubt anybody's going to go into this game, and as soon as she appears on screen, they're going to go, aha! They're not going to laugh about this. They're going to be enthralled. And I'm wondering, like, when do we meet this character? Like, how far into the game do we meet this character? And after we meet this character, who are we going to meet afterwards? How are you going to keep it interesting?
Right. So we want to see lore dumps. We want to see, like, pages you have to collect of her diary or someone's diary of creating this creature or conducting experiments or some scientific involvement of why is she so tall? How did she live so long? How did she have all these abilities? The same with these crazy teleporting witches, whatever. Were those bugs? I don't exactly know. What
bugs, which a lot of people are drawing comparisons to Resident Evil 7. You had it was mom, one of the Baker family. She could, like, call forth like a swarm of insects, and people are drawing comparisons like, that's how Resident Evil 7 is going to be tied into Resident Evil 8.
Right.
Like, is this where the mold virus comes from? This place, nobody knows yet.
Right. So I think there's enough opportunity to tell a story that connects things, provided there's sufficient backstory and lore dumps of these characters, their abilities, like how do they do all this stuff. And you do get a little bit of that in Resident Evil, like the experiments. You read about stuff and the creepy things that are going on and the last moments of someone's life, and you read about that. So there's diary pages in books, but it's how it's done. Is it going to waste everyone's time? Is it just going to be a bunch of, like, you imagine going on a quest line that's just collect like 18 pages of some random thing to find out why one of the girls is the way they are. It's like, okay, well, maybe you might be interested in doing that. But if it's not integrated into the main plot, it's just going to be a side quest. It's like, probably not very interesting. So nice that they put it in there, if it is there. But you want to see more involvement with how did they get this way and what are they trying to do? What's their goal? That's the plot we want to know about. So there's plenty of...
And what do they want? And what do they... Sorry to cut you off. And what do they want with Ethan's daughter? Because they talk about a ceremony. Like, what are they going to do with a baby? Are they going to make it like them, vampire ladies? Are they going to make it into something else? Who knows? We don't know.
I like the premise. It's basic enough. You have a reason to be there. I don't know how they got a hold of Ethan's daughter, or even if they do know how to get to her.
Well, that's one of the things a lot of people are discussing. Is Chris is the one that takes her, and anybody who's played any of the past Resident Evil games knows that Chris is a good guy. He works for the like an organization that combats bioterrorism. So everybody's like, why is a good guy? Why is a guy who's essentially like a Captain America-esque character kidnapping a baby and bringing it to this cult or group like this? Why? What is the connection there? Like, why is he doing this? That's what everybody's wondering about right now.
Here's Strawman. Thanks for the super chat. I found Hodor hotter than Tall Lady. Really? Hodor? Huh.
Hey, you like what you like, can't can't fault you.
I'm assuming that's the TV version, not the book version. So, all right.
Something that actually makes us. I mean, look at that hat.
Yeah.
That hat is so good.
Yeah, I know.
I love that hat. You know, and the necklace. It's so anachronistic in the different fashion time periods that go into this dress. It's like such a mashup. I can't put my finger.
I wouldn't go that far. The dress is kind of generic. It's a faded white dress that obviously has to be created for her her frame. Jewelry, meh. It's the hat that's really cool. That and the hairstyle sort of gives me that 40s, 50s vibe. Could be a little.
Like I stated before, you find a document in the maiden demo that has, I forget the exact dates, but it's 1958. So they've been around for quite a while. I mean, we don't know if they've been along longer than that, but yeah, they've been around since at least the 50s.
Yeah, I think people were just so hungry for a female character that looked cool, right? And we know she's a villain. We don't.
I don't think she looks.
We've never had female characters in any games in the past 20 years that look cool. Yes, thank you, Liana. Great job. Great job. Not in the last 20 years we've had any female video game characters that look cool. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hard sentence to swallow there, Liana.
Can you just imagine, like, so many video games oversaturated with 9-foot-tall vampire ladies? It's like too much.
Yeah, you know what? We don't really have. I mean, I'm trying to remember Castlevania. There's only the one Carmilla that is sort of here and there throughout the series, but it's never really a main focus. It's never really all the characters are never really main focus anyway, because there's always Dracula, but there hasn't been that many really. Maybe in other stories, maybe in other games, but not for Castlevania at least.
Expect her to be a role model or anything like that, but my God, she looks cool.
Okay.
Like somebody dared to take some risks and do something and create a character that made a statement, not just from the way she looks and the fact that she's got like Wolverine fingers. Who's the X-Men that had the fingers instead of the claws? Oh, it was Lady Deathstrike. Yeah, Lady Deathstrike hand. You know, when she's kind of on that phone and having a very intense conversation and like...
I thought she was going to say penance, but, you know, that's just me and my geeky self. But, yeah, Lady Deathstrike does have those fingers, too, yeah.
There's a little bit of depth to the character. They showed some acting. They showed some performance. They showed something that we can stick to and go, this is exciting. It might not be a 100% original idea, but it's more original than what we've been getting for a while.
Yeah, we'll just get another Wesker in the background. He's like laughing. Oh, you thought I was dead. Hi, Albert. How you doing?
Complete global saturation.
Why won't you die?
Point. You know, Cyberpunk had the opportunity to introduce us to some, interesting female characters, but the entire game got in the way of this. So, you know, hopefully, whenever it does come out, Resident Evil will, live up to the hype, kind of maintain the hype surrounding that character.
I think there were plenty of interesting female characters in Cyberpunk. That's not the problem with Cyberpunk. I'm sure some of the storylines weren't that hot, but a lot of them were. So, you're really trying to compare apples and oranges with those two storylines. So, and specifically which ones, I don't know. But you can't just say Cyberpunk is, it had the opportunity. It's like, the story's there. You just have to get around the bugs.
they've got feeling the pressure right now, right? Because like most of it's locked in, but maybe they can do reshoots or something like that to punch up the character. But yeah, watching the reaction, because there's not very much content with this character. That's the other thing I'm really amazed by. Like, people are going crazy based on, you know, little snippets of a few seconds each of content. People are just devouring.
Gee, Liana, why do you think that is? If there's not much content, what do you think sticks out in your mind? Why would they like this character? Speculation from the fans is one thing, but everything else.
No more. They like her. They think she's attractive.
She is attractive for multiple reasons. That's all it takes, Leon. It's not hard to grasp.
Everything about 8-foot-tall vampire lady. And I think it's a combination of, you know, a legitimately cool character, but also just a gaming environment that's been a relative wasteland.
No. Why would you say that? There's so many of those games. If they were wastelands, why would they sell? They have stories taking place in Africa and in crazy abandoned towns that have been overrun by plagues and all kinds of other scary horrors. They like them. Even if you consider the game saturated with boring jump scares or demonic dogs or whatever, it's like that's what people want. They like it. It works for them.
In terms of female characters that dared to do anything terribly interesting. And I mean, okay, there's a lot of kind of interesting looks in Resident Evil 7. I hope, this is my hope for the game. I'll probably be wrong. But
yep,
they will build an enjoyable experience based on tone and setting and immersion, as opposed to overdoing the gore and jump scares to just kind of, you know, kick our adrenal glands in the balls. I would love...
That's a funny way of describing. Kick our adrenal glands in the balls. What? Don't kick the adrenal glands, kick them in the balls. Like, wait, they have balls? Well, just say kick the adrenal glands.
An atmospheric thriller game that just it isn't being chased by Mr. X again and again and again. I can't take another.
Yeah, but that's scary.
Oh, shut up.
Awesome.
Shut up, Diana. That was the best part of Resident Evil 2 Remake. It was so random. Like, you're cruising or you're creeping around the police station, and then all of a sudden in the distance you can hear heavy footsteps, and you just instantly know I'm in trouble. I need to, you know, get out of here. You know, that was the best part of that game, is like just knowing he was coming after you.
There was so many great ways of trying to escape it. Like, not how to escape, but like videos of you failing to escape. He just always destroys you. The only way I think is to avoid him is to get to a safe room, and he bypasses you or something like that. I can't recall the exact method, but
he'll actually like I've seen videos of it, like where he'll actually like peek. He'll like lean down and peek into the save room as the door closes on him, and it's just like, whoa. It's just like creepy. It's just like he just like bends like halfway down and glares at you as the door closes on him.
Experience. But just something that is lavish and rich, and it looks like they're really going for, you know, the PS5 experience to be the experience. But tell us a story. Take us along for it.
But, okay, she's just jumping topics now. I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, we are telling a story. This is a continuation from Resident Evil 7. It's the same characters.
Yeah.
A couple of the same characters. characters, but yeah, they are telling a story. There is continuity here.
Right. They're banking on the fact that people like the previous game. So they obviously wouldn't.
Which you didn't get in the previous Resident Evil games. I mean, yeah, you'd had like characters coming over from like, you had like Claire from Resident Evil 2 coming into Code Veronica, in that kind of continuity. Like here it's like, like the story might continue here. It's like, we might find out the origins of the virus from Resident Evil 7. We don't know. We don't know yet. That's why people are salivating over this game. They want to know more. And another thing that a lot of people are curious about is like, what is this character, Lady Dimitrescu, gonna look like when you get to the final boss fight with her? Is she gonna get bigger? That's what people are wondering. Like, is she gonna get bigger? Is she gonna get gross? People want to know.
What does she transform into? What are her abilities? How do you fight her? There's all sorts of.
Fight her, like, are you going to fight her in a small space? Are you going to fight her in an open courtyard? No one knows.
Places of it are going to be really stupid and clunky. And, they've got a merchant that's probably going to become a meme. But she's become the meme. It's like,
Wasn't the merchant in the previous game as well?
Not in Resident Evil 7. He was in Resident Evil 4.
Oh.
And he was, he's since become a meme. Everybody loves the sound of the merchant's voice from Resident Evil 4. What are you buying, stranger? Everybody, you just say that line in front of a bunch of Resident Evil fans and they'll just start laughing, because they'll instantly know what it is. The merchant here, we don't really know a whole lot about him except that he's fat and he sits in a wagon, and they said he'll pop up in other places, and they said, oh, he's an interesting guy.
Oh, I remember the skit by Mega 64. What are you buying? What are you selling?
I'll buy it at a high price.
They had a huge fat guy merchant, and 8-foot-tall vampire lady has just blown everything out of the water in terms of fan interest. And I think there's nothing but good about this. We have to see through the thirst and the perv and see that for what it is.
Okay, so let's say we're not attracted to her visually. What is there, Liana?
Really, there's not much else.
I mean, the reason why we like monsters is because they're scary and big and weird and freaky looking. So to put something sexual, this is very common in the horror genre. You have sexual charged scenarios with violently charged scenarios. They work extremely well, and you have this jump from attraction to repulsion very quickly. And we've seen that all throughout the 70s and 80s with those all kinds of B movies, slasher flicks, even softcore and porn flicks from the 70s and 80s. They sometimes play around with those as well. So it works very well with using sex or sexuality. If you take away this attractive lady and just make her a small little frumpy woman old woman in a robe, no one would care. It wouldn't make a difference. Like, that picture you showed me, the image of that the gypsy lady or whatever, that old woman, no one would care. Like, yeah, just some weird, creepy old woman. All right. Weird, creepy old woman. Wow, in a Resident Evil story. Oh, yeah, it's never seen that before. So to do this with this style is what is cool. It makes me think of other games or other stories or other settings which Resident Evil didn't really do so much. There are obviously some levels which are, you could say, are rich, like the layout of the room and the furniture and the giant columns and all sorts of other architecture is really expensive looking. But when you have an entire castle that's gorgeous, and you have all these,
and we've only seen like a small part of the castle too. We got a taste of it with the maiden demo, but yeah, it'll be interesting to explore this castle that's essentially like stuck in time, you know.
It is neat. Yeah, I always like those ideas, especially when you played like Assassin's Creed. You get to go back in time to ancient Venice or what have you, medieval Venice or Renaissance Venice, and crawl around and run around the place and check out all the architecture, like be on top of the architecture. That's neat. That's part of the appeal of those games. So to have this style of architecture in a Resident Evil game is like, oh, okay, cool. You're going to be running around this gorgeous looking castle that's obviously run down and creepy and dusty and dirty, and it's like, wow, what's going to be there? It'll be a fun place. That's the kind of place you want to explore. At least from a architectural standpoint, there could be like things to, like, I don't know, armoires or desks or all sorts of interesting things to pull apart. It depends on how much detail they put into the whole game. Whereas you're going through a desk and there's like 5 different drawers. Like I highly doubt that. It's gonna be this complicated puzzle of a scenario. But you want that level of detail in some cases. I wouldn't say it's necessary, but when you have the level of detail for your inventory system, where that's a puzzle, that's a mini game in itself, you want to have intricate elements, which I kind of like that. I kind of like that gothic level of puzzle solving, where it's like, okay, you have this weird gemstone, you have to fit it into some sort of statue, like the eyes of a lion or something, and you have to go run around, and that unlocks some secret mechanical system that opens a door. Like, it's kind of silly, like that there would be this elaborate lock system, but that's what makes it cool. That someone designed
and they
it.
have that. Yeah, and they have that in this game. Like, they showed it in the maiden demo. You find a ring that has like an eye, like a glass eye in it, and you take the eye out and you insert the eye into like a door, like that's got like a statue like in the door, and it unlocks the door, you know. And that's like a callback to Resident Evil 4. You know, you have to like find a glass eye that belonged to like a boss and use it to unlock a gate, you know, because it has a retinal scanner. Don't ask me how that works, but it just does.
Yeah, like these ideas are
It'd be interesting to see like what kind of puzzles and traps are going to be in this mansion.
Yeah, and
this castle.
These concepts have been around for a while, but we like not the impossibility of it. But it's like, wow, it's intricate. Someone planned this out. Some crazy mastermind, some rich genius, or some sort of weirdo, you know, put all this work and history into making this castle. It has all these. I'm sure they have all kinds of hidden entrances and locked doors and elaborate puzzles to open up doors and open up cages or open up fences. So you're going to have all those classic puzzle solving, and that's cool. I think that's part of the...
Yeah, in this setting, it'll make sense because it's a castle from like the 15th century. It's an old castle. You know, they tried to do this in Resident Evil 7, where they had like secret passages and, you know, puzzles that, you know, you had to use like shadows to unlock. And they tried to explain it like, oh, it was a construction company that was owned by the guy that created the mansion from the first game. And it's like, okay, stop. You're trying to explain too much here.
I remember there was a skit by some sort of British comedy troupe, and they were trying to make a joke about who does all the traps for James Bond villains. And it was always some British bloke, and you have all these safety regulations of how this works and all the warning signs and all this other crap, because you'd have to be some rich, crazy dude to hire someone to put this all together. So when there's a combination of engineering and mysticism or magic and some sort of weird biochemical virus causing powers to erupt from people, it's like, okay, we just need the right mix of fantasy elements for this all to come together. And that's why big medieval castles or things that have been lost to time, it's like, oh yeah, maybe there is some crazy genius mechanic there who did all this crazy stuff for whatever reason. Maybe he went insane. Maybe he was trying to safeguard something. What's the secret of the castle? It's always this wonderfully elaborate plot of what happened in the past to the inhabitants to have like turnkey glass key rings or whatever to open up a door. So I kind of like that weird historical element. Just storytelling by virtue of puzzle solving is always kind of neat.
Yeah.
Right.
Does anyone have the root key? I have to take a piss.
Yeah, I gotta open the bathroom. I can't do it.
It's a form of, as a few people pointed out to me, COVID has a lot of people very pent up, but it's a form of admiration. It's a form of almost like this submissive worship of this character that they know nothing about. It's not, oh yeah, I'd like to hit that. It's step on my face, giant.
That's I'm sure some people are like that, but no, I think it's because she's attractive, and that stimulates all sorts of imagination. And it doesn't matter what the manifestation of that is, it's different for everyone. So it resonates with people because it's attractive.
Lady, when you get out of your own way and just observe, phenomena like this are kind of cool.
It's not a phenomenon
because there's this tendency, right, to force everything into objectified, bad.
Okay, Liana, no one's doing that except the morons on the left who always do that. So everyone else says, hot, awesome vampire chick. Cool, I can't wait to see what happens with her.
Honestly, I don't think anybody's like coming to her defense, like, oh, you're just objectifying her. I haven't heard anybody making that case so far as I can tell. I mean, nobody's really come to her defense.
Yeah, all the fans are going, this is awesome. And all the people who don't like it, we haven't heard from, and we don't care if they did say something stupid. So I haven't heard that yet. Like, oh, it's just a bunch of big titty worshipers. They don't like real women. It's like, it's she's not real. She's gigantic. And that's awesome. So can't we just appreciate that for the mystery that it holds? I think we can.
Hey, but if you take out those artificial structures, and actually listen to the fan reactions, she's gonna rip me to shreds, wee, which just subverts all the assumptions about.
I think she's lost in this counter arguing with SJWs, and she just can't escape the thought process.
Yeah, I mean, people were excited for Mr. X in the Resident Evil 2 remake, Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 remake. They weren't sexual. They were like, "Oh my god, my favorite character, it's gonna kill me. I'm just gonna let him kill me so I can see the animation of it killing me."
Yeah, the same with Pyramid Head in Silent Hill. It's like, whoa, that's a freaky looking villain. Hard to shoot, hard to kill. Yeah.
Gamer, right. Okay, this was just fun to talk about, and like.
Do people enjoy listening to Liana? It seems like she's rambling in her own little world. She's not paying attention to people's criticizing her. I don't know. Anyway, that was Liana K.
Always a treasure.
Too many words, weird perspectives. I mean, she's on the right line of thinking, but then she just goes off and you're like, no, stop, please stop.
The worst one I heard from her was most recently, where she was talking about how she did an ad for a game that came out years ago, and they had her dress up as a character that's in the game or something like that. And then she's like, so I'm the ultimate expert when it comes to being objectified by the male gaze. I'm like, stop right there.
Because she's a woman?
I honestly couldn't even make it to the rest of the video. I just stopped and I was just like, okay, I'm done. And it was like the first 30 seconds of the video too, and it's just like, yep, done. I don't want to hear anything else you have to say after this point.
All right. Well, it sounds like a pretty cool game that's coming out. Hopefully this year. We have no idea how these release dates work.
It comes out in May. In May 7th, I believe.
Are they
I think
good?
someone mentioned in chat, but
Are,
it is in May. It is coming out in May. So
are they good on their due dates? Like when they say they're going to release, they actually release on the same day?
I believe so. I don't think there was any problems with Resident Evil 3, not that I'm aware of, because they were using the same game engine from Resident Evil 2 remake.
Okay.
Um, so I think they should be on schedule. I haven't
All
heard
right.
anything, so they should be good for delivery.
Okay. Well, I do know that at least where I'm at, most of the places are going to be outside of the lockdown. You're still going to red status in my city. So Toronto's going to be a bit more open, but not completely open. So that's in March, April, May. So a few more months later. Hopefully, we'll be able to get back to normal by May time. So I don't think that'll help the development per se, but you'll at least be able to have somewhat of a normal life depending where you are in the world and be able to download or buy a game and enjoy it and interact with people in person and talk about things again, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm gonna download this game, to be honest. I'm meaning the last physical copy of a game I ever bought was Resident Evil 2 remake, and I bought the collector's edition.
Oh, okay. Guess you're a real fan of the Resident Evil series. You want to own as much as you. Well, there's plenty of others that came after.
I was trying. I think I've told this before, but Resident Evil 2 was the first mature rated video game I ever played. Way back in the day, and I played it on the Nintendo 64. Um, that's the only game I had, and GoldenEye, obviously. So
Mhm.
it's what got me into the series. That's what got me into the series. I saw a friend of mine playing it, and I was like, "Ooh, I want that game. I like it. It looks cool." You know. So that's what got me into Resident Evil.
Ah, good old N64. I remember playing. What was it? Perfect Dark. Oh, that was awesome. But you gotta
Yeah,
like
I remember playing that one too.
you gotta like those styles of games. But anyway, yeah, fantastic. Hopefully we'll get more trailers the next few months. I'm sure they're gonna have a big giant marketing stint in May when a game comes out.
We've already had three trailers,
Really?
including the announcement trailer. We had the announcement trailer, then we had a second trailer. The third trailer was in at the end of January. They did a Resident Evil showcase live where they showed like a gameplay trailer. They talked about the maiden demo. They talked about oh god, they're doing a free to play game as well, and they they briefly mentioned the Netflix series that's coming, the animated Netflix series.
Well, that's better than not only having one trailer like we saw for Anthem. So the more content before release is always a good sign that they're on schedule, or at least they're ready to produce or publish rather. So it is possible they can push it back another week or another month for whatever reason. We always it
And
happens.
there is one thing that people are worried about. I haven't heard much about it lately. When they did the showcase, they were showing off the different editions you can buy. There was a like a special edition or something like that, a physical one, and some of the stuff that you could buy. One of the things was they it looks like they paywalled difficulty settings, and that's what people are worried about right now. Like higher difficulty, settings, because they saw like in one of the special editions. I should have got a picture of it where it was like high difficulty or hard difficulty mode is in like the special edition, and I heard some people talk about it, but I haven't heard anything since about it. I haven't even heard the developers comment about it, so no idea what's that about.
And this is a single player non-online game and they're putting a paywall.
Exactly. Well, supposedly, no one actually knows. Like the developers haven't commented on it. I think there was like a couple articles about it when they did the showcase, like after the showcase, but I haven't heard anything about it since then. I'll take a look into it, but
Wow.
yeah, I don't know off the top of my head right now.
That sounds insane, but maybe
It could be wrong. It could be wrong. That's something like Konami would do.
yeah, I can only imagine they will have like a lock on, like after you pass the game, you could unlock other features like difficulty, like higher difficulty. That might make more sense, but man, if that's true, that would piss off a lot of people.
Yeah, especially if it's a difficulty setting too. Like, why would you do that?
Anything behind a paywall is bad.
I'm wondering what the DLC for this game is going to be, because the DLC for Resident Evil 7 was they expanded on the story. Like, here's a DLC for what happened before the game started. Here's a DLC that happened after the game was over. The main game was over. And here's like another game where you play as Chris Redfield after the main game is over. So I'm wondering what DLC they're going to do for this game.
Well, it's all one big mystery. I love the setting. I love the character designs, the fashion. From what we can figure out, we're not exactly sure where this dress comes from and where the rest of the witches come from. We're in time. So, yeah, it looks awesome. Hope to see more content. And, well, you're the guy who knows Resident Evil more than anyone else on the SmudTalk, or the SmudCast, rather.
Yep.
So be sure to update me because it looks awesome. So, yeah, great. Anything else you want to talk about, or you're good to call it a night?
I think I'm good to call it a night. I think we covered a lot. Covered the Madame here, and I think we covered a lot. I think we're good.
All right. Well, thanks, BB. This was always fun. This is the third stream we did today, so always nice to get as much content as we can on our weekends. For me, Saturday is like a anything goes sort of day. I'll lounge about or read a book or do what everyone else wants to do. We'll do it. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and have yourself a great evening. Bye-bye.